Alright everyone, so this week I thought we'd do a kind of a design technique where we're going to use some text and some clipping groups to create a really interesting design effect. And what we're going to do is create a wall of text in a sense where we've got a bunch of random words and we're going to basically put an image inside that text, and then we're going to have some text in front of that in the foreground that will kind of give us a really interesting depth effect because we're going to clip an image inside of that. So to start with, I've got some text here already. For the sake of time, I've already gone ahead and set a few lines of text here, and I'm just going to turn those layers on. You can see, if I zoom in here a little bit, you can see that text is basically just a bunch of different words describing the nature. And this, what we're going to be doing is, it's an image of a lion, and you can almost think of it as kind of a Discovery Channel type of thing, where it's going to have an image of a lion inside the text, and it'll say the king in front of it, you know, just something to that effect. And you can see I've got these words up here. Now I need to take all these words and make just a wall of text continuing all the way down here, down the file. So what I'm going to do, since I've already got the text set, which is set in impact, and I've got them pretty tightly closed in there, I'm going to go ahead and rasterize these text layers by holding down the Control key or right-clicking on the layer and going down here to rasterize type. We'll do that for this layer as well. Then I'm simply going to merge those two layers by pressing Command or Control E, and that will make that one object. Now, I'm going to load that layer as a selection by holding down my Command or Control key and then clicking directly on that layer. Then, we're going to do a step and repeat motion here, and to do that you need to go ahead and press Option Command T or Alt Control T on the PC, and it will bring up the free transform. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. I've already let go of the Option and Command. I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and then do my down arrow, which will advance it every 10 pixels, and just keep going down until I'm right beneath. I may need to just nudge it a little bit here, taking my hand off the Shift key, and then once I'm there, I'll just hit Enter, and it will do that. Now, if I hold down my Shift Option Command or Shift Alt Control and then continuously press T, it will repeat that copy and paste all the way down the document. We'll keep doing it until you stop. So I went a little bit off the document there, but that's okay. Now, so we've got our wall of text. Well, now we need to drop an image into it. Well, I've already got an image here, and this fierce lion right here with his mouth wide open. Very cool. I'm just going to hold down my Shift key and just drag this image into our working file, and it will drop it right dead in the center there. Then I'm going to bring up my free transform, Command or Control T, and I'll bring this window out. We'll just scale this out so it fills the entire area, and then just hit Enter. Now, to mask it inside the text, all I really need to do is simply go into my Layers palette, hold down my Option or Alt key, and click between the image layer and the text layer. You get those overlapping circles indicating we're about to turn this into a clipping group. Click, there it is. Now, it's getting a little lost because of our really light background. The background layer here is filled with white. Let's go ahead and fill that with a color that's kind of goes with the scene here. Let's go with a dark brown kind of. And I'll just Option Delete or Alt Backspace to fill that in there. Now, I want to give the lettering a little bit more depth in here. Let's zoom in a little bit. So what I'm going to do is actually bring up a layer style and apply a drop shadow to the text itself. Not the image of the lion, but the text. So double click on that layer icon there, and we will get the layer styles. Let's click and activate drop shadow, and the shadow is probably a tad much, so I'm going to actually drop the distance down to about 2, and also bring the size to about 3, and that's a little more subtle. So maybe drop that opacity down just a little bit too. Let's go to about 60, and hit OK. So there we are. We've got our lion inside our text layer, so that looks pretty good. Well, now let's put something in the foreground area to kind of complete it. Let's bring out the text I had already set here before. I'm going to drag this up to above all these layers here, and we'll turn that on. It simply says King, and I want to tighten the spacing in this lettering here just a little bit. So I'm going to double click on that text layer, text icon there, which will highlight the entire text, and we'll bring up my character palette here. And right in here, where we have the letter spacing, I'm simply going to basically invert the value here by typing in -50, and you can see it tightened in that spacing a little bit. So with that in play. And the reason I wanted to bring that in a little bit is because when we mask an image inside of this lettering, with the lettering closer together, it makes it much more easier to see. So I'm just going to position that right about there, and I'm going to minimize this image. I've got another image of a lion here, little subtle, really cool looking lion right there. I'm just going to, same as we did before, shift drag that image into this file. And I'm actually going to scale this one down a little bit, because this is going to be inside that lettering right down there. And I'll just hit enter, zoom in here just a little bit, bring this up so I can see it. Now, again, like we did before, I'm going to make a clipping group out of this, holding down the Alt or Option key and then clicking between those layers. And there it is, dropped it in there. And with that lion layer still selected, I can actually move it around into a position where I like it, right about there. I want to be able to see those eyes in this text and everything like that. We got to do a couple more things to this text to make it a bit more legible. So on the text layer itself, I'm going to double click on that layer and bring up the layer styles, and I'm going to apply a drop shadow. And for this shadow, I'm going to increase the size just quite a bit and the distance, so it really looks like it's hovering over that background area there, right about like that. And we'll drop that opacity right to about 65. Looks pretty good. Now I'm also going to apply a stroke to this text, and I'm just going to make it really kind of a dark stroke. Let's go and get our color picker inside the stroke options here. Let's go with a really kind of a dark brown, about like that. That looks pretty good. And we'll hit OK. I want to make sure that it's set to the outside, or rather, let's see what inside looks like. No, I think I like outside. Seems to tie the lettering together a little bit better. There we go. And I'm going to leave it set to a 3-pixel stroke, and once everything looks good, hit OK. There we have that. So, well, with that text in place, I want to get a little bit more interest down here. I want to kind of fade from a color to the image up here a little bit. So I'm going to click on this layer of the lion that's masked inside this text here. And I'm going to just go create a new layer right above it. I want to make sure it's part of that clipping group, so simply Alt or Option click between those two layers. And I'm going to select, we're going to make sure we're still using that brown color we used for the background. And then I'm just going to take my gradient tool, making sure the gradient's going from our color to a transparent color. And just starting from the bottom, hold down the Shift key and just kind of draw up right about to the area of his mouth right here. Just like that. You can see, I'll draw another one just to give a little bit more. You can see that what that's doing is giving us a little bit more legibility inside this text. And I can actually take this line here and perhaps move it a little bit like that, just to create a little bit more interest. I can even raise the background lion image here just so it's a little bit more visible in that background. But you can really see, by using clipping groups and doing all this, you really have a lot of freedom. You don't have to mask this inside the text and, you know, just be happy with it. You can actually go in here and edit it and do all kinds of things after the fact. So let me go ahead and I'm going to duplicate that text there. Put that right above there. Let's turn that off. So I'm going to reapply this clipping mask there because it released it when I duplicated that text. So here's a duplicate of that text layer we just made. I'm going to double click on the text itself and then retype something. We'll just do the. And I'm going to take my eyedropper tool and actually sample this color right inside here. Let's go and get that green right there. I'm just going to Option Delete and fill that word the in there with that color. Bring up Free Transform, pressing Command T, and just scale it down just a little bit here. And let's kind of place it right there. And boom, there you have it. So we've taken just a few lines of text and a couple of images and really given this a really compelling look. Just a few short steps. Give it a try yourself, and we'll see you next time.